Create a secure login system with PHP. Today we're going to be using WAMP 64 to run our PHP application. If you need help setting that up, I'll leave a link up top and down below to where I walk you through the process. All of the source code and links to resources will be available down in the description. First, we need to navigate to File Explorer, and we want to navigate to wherever we installed our WAMP 64. In my case, I have it in my C drive right here under WAMP 64. I'm going to navigate to this folder, go to the www folder, create a new folder called login_system, and this is going to be our project folder right here. So to actually open our WAMP server, what we want to do is go down to our search bar, search for our WAMP server, and go ahead and click on this one here, and then go ahead and click yes. And at this point, it's going to take a second for our WAMP server to boot up. And if you guys have any issues with the process of getting your WAMP server up and running, I'll leave a link up top and down below to a video where I walk you through how to solve a common issue with it. And once this is up and running, we can go down to our caret icon here. And if we're all good to go, it will be green and it will say all services running. At this point, we can go ahead and click on our WAMP server icon and go ahead and open our local host. And inside of our local host here, we can go ahead and open our project folder of login system. And here it's going to display this default content because we haven't actually created anything yet. So at this point, you want to go ahead and open your code editor of choice. In my case, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, but there are other options such as PHP Storm that you can use. And inside of our code editor, I'm going to open the folder that we created within our WAMP 64 folder here by clicking on it and then selecting it. Now that we have this open, we need to go ahead and create our project structure. So first, I'm going to create a new file called index.php, which is going to default to our home page. Next, I want to create a login.php file where users will eventually be able to log in, followed by a register.php file where users will eventually be able to register or create an account. Then I want to create another file called dashboard.php, and this will display for users once they successfully log in. Then I need to create a file where users can successfully log out of their account called logout.php. Then I want to create a new folder called styles, and inside of this folder is where I'll go ahead and create my styles.css file. Next, I need to create a new folder called images, and inside of this, I will go ahead and paste in whatever images I want to use, and I'm only using 2 today, but you guys can use as many as you want. Next, I want to create a new folder called includes, and this is where we are going to store all of the components that we'll use over and over again throughout our application. Inside of this folder, I'm going to create a db.inc.php file, and this is where we are eventually going to connect to our database. And INC doesn't do anything special here. This is just a good practice when you're creating files within your includes folder. Next, we need to create the head.inc.php file, followed by the navbar.inc.php file. And lastly, we need to create our secure session.inc.php file, and this is where we are going to create a session and do it securely. That's going to do it for our project structure and setup. At this point, to save some time, what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy and paste in all of my HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap code. And this is so we can go ahead and focus more on the PHP side of things today. But if you want to learn more about HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap, I'll leave a link up top and down below to a video where I show you how to develop websites with those tools. To begin this process, I'm going to navigate to my navbar.php file, and go ahead and paste in a basic navbar. And you guys will see that I left comments that say PHP here, and all that means is that we will be coming back and including PHP code in those locations. Do the same thing for our head.php, our dashboard.php, our index.php, followed by the login, and finally our register page. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move Visual Studio Code over to the left and display our live server on the right. And what I can do is go ahead and refresh this, and you guys will see that we have some basic HTML code showing up, but it's not styled or anything yet because there's a few more steps that we need to do. So first we need to navigate to our head.php file, and right here where it says PHP title, what we want to do is create our PHP bracket right here like so, and all we're going to do is echo out our title variable right here. So what this will do is it will let us dynamically render a new title for each one of our pages. Next, what we need to do is navigate to our index.php, and up here at the top, we want to create some PHP brackets so we can include our code. And the first thing we want to do is go ahead and declare the title of our page using our title variable. And I'll go ahead and call this login system. And after that, we need to go ahead and use the include keyword to include our head.php file just like so. And then down here within our body, we need to once again use our include statement. And I'm going to show you guys a different way to use the include statement from up above, but either way works fine. So in this case, we'll use parentheses followed by quotation marks. And once again, I need to go ahead and create my PHP bracket just like so. So I'll go ahead and include that now. And inside of this, it's going to be the same thing that we did up top. Go to our includes folder, and we want to get our nav bar here. And once I go ahead and do that, I can refresh the page, and you guys will see that our styling is starting to come together. But the last thing I need to do is go ahead and paste in my CSS styling and then refresh. And I just ran into an issue where it wasn't refreshing correctly. So sometimes you run into that problem with WAMP server. To fix that, you want to go to your browser options here and go ahead and delete your browsing data just like this, and then go ahead and refresh your page, and it should clear up those errors for you. So at this point, you can see that our page is successfully showing with our navigation, our hero image, and all the styling that we needed. So next, we need to navigate back to our index.php, go ahead and copy this statement up here, and we want to go ahead and paste this in to our login.php, change the name of our page to simply log in. Go ahead and do so again for our register.php, and go ahead and change this title to register. And at this point, you can see why this variable is so useful here. And then we want to do this one more time for our dashboard.php. So go ahead and paste this in and change this to user dash board. And then we also need to go ahead and include our nav bar on every page. So we'll go ahead and copy and paste that into our login, our register page, and our dashboard as well. And this all needs to go within our body element like so. And now you guys are going to notice that our login and register buttons are not working. So we need to go back to our index.php, and we simply need to go to our anchor elements and link to where we want to go. And in this case, we just want to link to the login.php for our login button, and our register.php page for our register button. Now if we refresh this and click on login, we go to our login form, and if we go back here, we can also navigate to our registration form. Next, we need to set up our secure session.php file, and what I'm going to do here is go ahead and paste in my code like so. And all this does is create a secure session for us to use, where we can create session variables, and we can use those variables and that session information across multiple pages. And we are creating that session with session start. At this point, we need to make sure that we include that secure session file on each one of our pages. So we'll go back to our dashboard.php to start. And right here at the top, you want to go ahead and paste in the include statement right here. That includes the secure session file. And when you guys are using sessions in PHP, they need to be the very first thing that you render up here at the top. So that's why we're including it first. If you include it somewhere down below, like for example right here, you're probably going to run into errors. So make sure you include it first. And we'll go ahead and do so for our index as well, and our login.php file and our register.php file. Now we also need to go ahead and paste this within our logout.php file. And from here, we need to navigate to our WAMP server, to PHP MyAdmin, and go ahead and open up PHP MyAdmin. You guys are going to notice that when we click on that, it opens the dashboard within PHP MyAdmin. And I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down so we have a little more space to work. And over here on the left, we can see all of our databases, and you don't really need to worry about everything else that's going on here. What we want to do is navigate to databases and go ahead and create our database. And we're going to call this login_system and go ahead and create. And now you guys will see on the left that our login system database has been created. From this point, we want to navigate to SQL. We want to run this SQL code. All this is doing is creating a table called users, creating an ID, username, password, and email column. And to run this, we'll go ahead and click go. And before we move on, if you guys want to run this code directly through MySQL console down below here, all of the source code for the SQL where you can run it directly in here will be available through the GitHub link below. But for now, just to keep it easy, we're going to do everything directly in PHP MyAdmin. And from this point, you can see that our query successfully ran. We want to navigate back to our login system database, to our users table here. You guys can see that our table columns that we just created are present. Now we can go ahead and minimize this, and what we want to do now is go ahead and make sure that we have PDO installed. PDO is short for PHP Data Objects, and we're going to be using that today to connect to and use our database information. If you guys want to use the procedural method or want to learn more about that method, I'll leave a link up top and down below where I show you guys how to use the procedural method. But today we're going to be using PDO, which is the object-oriented way to connect to and use databases in PHP. And at this point, we want to make sure that we have it installed. So if you guys already know that you have it installed and you've used it before on your system, go ahead and skip to the next portion of the video. But sometimes people have problems with this, or for some reason it doesn't automatically install. Most of the time when you download and set up something like WAMP server, it will automatically install PDO for you to use. But if not, I'm going to run you through how you can check on it and make sure that it's working. So we want to navigate back to our index.php, and down here we want to paste in this PHP bracket, and all we have within here is PHP info. And all this is going to do is show us all of our PHP data. We're going to go ahead and maximize this so we can really see it. And at this point, we want to go ahead and search for something, and we want to look for PDO_MySQL. So you guys can see down here underneath API extensions that MySQLi and PDO_MySQL is working. If you don't see that showing up here, the next step you can take is go ahead and navigate to your file explorer. And what we want to do is go to where our WAMP installation is. So navigate here, go to our bin, go to our Apache installation. We want to go to the version of Apache that we have installed. Navigate to the bin, and you guys are going to see a PHP file down here. So we want to go ahead and scroll down, and right here is going to be your php.ini file. So we'll go ahead and open this file up, maximize this, and you guys can see that I already have it showing, but let's say you went ahead and started at the top of the file here. What we want to do is Control F and look for PDO_MySQL. So we'll go ahead and look for that. And down here where it says extension, we want it to be equal to PDO_MySQL. Sometimes this will be commented out with a semicolon like this, which is going to cause an issue. So what you want to do is just go ahead and get rid of that semicolon, and then it will work. And from here, you just want to make sure you go ahead and save the file. So now that we know we have PDO set up and ready to use for sure, we can go ahead and get rid of this PHP info right here. Go ahead and refresh. And we want to navigate to our db.php file so we can actually connect to our database. So to do this, we want to start off with a variable called host, and we want to make this equal to local host, since we're doing this on our locally hosted server. Next, we want to create a variable called DB name and make that equal to the name of our database. So in our case, it was login_system. We want to create a user name variable, and remember our username to log in to PHP was simply root, and we want to create our password, and our password was simply nothing because we haven't created anything. Now we want to go ahead and use a try catch. So we'll go ahead and set this up like so we can try to connect to our database or catch any errors. So first we want to create a variable called PDO, and this is going to be used to create a new PDO. And right here we want to go ahead and specify what database we want to connect to, specifically what type, and we're using MySQL. We need to specify our host, so that is going to be equal to our variable host. Specify our DB name, which is going to be equal to the variable that we just created above of DB name, if I can spell. And then we want to make sure we go outside of our quotation marks here and go ahead and specify our username and our password here. Underneath this, we want to use our PDO variable, and we want to go ahead and set the attribute. So we'll go ahead and specify PDO followed by ATTR error mode here. We want to do this again, but this time we want to specify error mode exception, and all this is doing is setting up our error handling. Next, we want to set up the catch portion of this, set up a PDO exception, pass our event in case something fails, and we simply want to echo connection failed followed by our event variable here and the error message. So we'll say get message, and this will display any errors on our screen that might occur if our database cannot successfully connect. So that's going to do it for our database connection. Now we just need to include it in the necessary pages. So first we'll go to our dashboard.php and just go ahead and use our include statement to include our db.php file. And we also want to include this within our login page and our register page, so we can simply paste those in. Next, we want to make sure we're in the register.php page, and underneath our include file for our database here, what we want to do is set up an if statement, and what we want to look for is our server, and we specifically want to look for the request method and check if this is equal to post, and you guys will see that down here within our form, our method is set to post. So we're basically checking to see whenever somebody submits the form, it's going to go ahead and post the form based on our method here, and then run our if statement. And within this if statement, we want to create a variable called username, make that equal to post, and we want to get our username. So what we're doing is getting whatever the user inputs down here within this input field here for the username. And in PHP, to get that variable, we're using the name attribute here, which is equal to username. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and copy this and paste it down below. And we just want to change our username to email. So now you guys can see we're getting our email. Paste this again, but now we need to successfully get our password. And what we want to do here is going to be a little bit different because this is going to be a sensitive data type because it's a password. So what we'll go ahead and do here is we want to hash our password. So we'll use password hash here. Go ahead and move this within our parentheses. And at the end here, we want to use the password encryption of this one right here. So what this is going to do is when we register for a new account through this web application, it's going to encrypt the password and send it to the database, meaning anybody that goes into the database can't see the actual password because it's encrypted. Next, what we need to do is set up a query variable, make this equal to our PDO. And what we want to do is prepare a query using the prepare keyword. And inside of this, we want to insert into our users table. We want to insert the username, an email, and a password. And next we need to specify our values. And for now, what we're going to do is we're going to set up parameters. So to do this, all we need to do is put question marks like so, and then obviously we're entering 3 different values here. So we'll go ahead and put 3 question marks. So this is simply setting up the query for us to use later on, and these are going to be the parameters that we can use. So underneath that, to actually use this query, we want to use our variable, say execute. We want to pass in our fields within square brackets here of username, email, password, and that's it. And I forgot to include my semicolon here, so make sure you don't forget those. And then we want to do one more thing. So up here at the top, what we want to do is declare a success variable, make this equal to an empty string. And if we successfully add all of our information here to the database, what we want to do is change our success variable to registration successful. And next we want to navigate down here below our button, create a PHP bracket. Within this, we'll create an if statement to check if the success variable is true or not, meaning there is something within it, meaning it's not an empty string anymore because we successfully went through this process. And we simply want to echo some HTML here. So we're echoing an H3 element with our success variable inside. So now we successfully set up our registration page. Let's go ahead and test this out. So if I refresh, click register, you guys are going to see that I have an error because I once again forgot to include a semicolon. So I'll go ahead and refresh that. Now you guys can see we are within our registration page. I'm going to go ahead and create an account with the username of Kalman Web Design. My email is going to be kalmanwebdesign@gmail.com. And my password, I'm also going to make it equal to Kalman Web Design and go ahead and hit register. And when I successfully fill in all of these fields with the necessary information, it will say registration successful. And so now if we navigate back to PHP.MyAdmin and go ahead and refresh this, you guys are going to see that if we go ahead and go into our users table, so I'll go ahead and navigate to that table like so, you guys can see that we have an ID of 1 with the username of Kalman Web Design, and our password shows up as all of this random nonsense because it's encrypted, which makes our application secure and our users are more secure this way as well. You can also see my email address like this. Now that we have this set up, we can go ahead and start setting up our login page. And to make our life a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and copy this if statement, go to the login.php page and go ahead and just paste in this content. And we're simply going to delete everything down below like this and just leave our username and email. At this point, we want to create another query variable, make this equal to PDO, and we want to prepare another query. And what we want to do here is select all from our users table, where our username is equal to the parameter that we enter. So next, we can go ahead and use that query. We can execute it, and we can once again pass in our parameter. And for this one, we're only going to pass in our username. Next, we want to create a user variable, make that equal to our query variable, and we simply want to use the fetch method to fetch all of our data. And what this is doing is it's selecting the user based on the username, and it's fetching all of the data associated with that user. And so here we need to create another if statement, check if our user variable is set, and we want to password verify here. So let me see if I can find it. Password verify our password variable, and we want to search that against our user password. So what this is doing is it's taking the password entered by the user and it's checking it against the password stored in the database for that specific user with that specific username. And to prevent session fixation, what we want to do is use session underscore regenerate ID. We want to set this to true, and this is going to add an extra layer of security. Now we can go ahead and set up some session variables. So the first one is going to be our user underscore ID, and we want to make this equal to our user ID. So all we're doing here is creating a variable called user ID, but we're storing it in the session, meaning we can use it across multiple pages and throughout this entire browser session. Next, we're going to go ahead and copy this one and go ahead and paste it below. Change this variable to logged in and make this equal to true. And at this point, if we can verify that the user logged in successfully, we want to use header to change the location of the page. So we'll specify location, and we want to send that user to their dashboard. So we'll specify dashboard.php. And then we need to set up the else portion of this if statement. And what we need to do is go back up here and initialize a new variable called problem. Make this equal to an empty string like this. And what we'll do is go ahead and copy this, go down here and paste it within our else statement. And so if the username and or password is not matched in the database, what we want to do is return invalid username or password. So all we want to do here is create an if statement and see if our problem variable is set. And we want to echo out our error inside of an HTML H3 element. So we'll log out problem. You guys are going to see that I have an error here because I accidentally asked for an email. What I want to be looking for here is a password. So I'll go ahead and change that from email to password. This should not be email. This should be password. So I'll reset that form from this point, and I'll go ahead and use Kalman Web Design. And my password was also Kalman Web Design down here. And go ahead and click log in. You guys will see that it successfully takes me to the dashboard.php file here, because now I'm successfully logged in. So now we need to go actually develop our dashboard.php file. So up here at the top underneath our database connection, we'll create an if statement, and we want to check if this is not set. So we'll say exclamation mark is set. And what we want to do is look for a session variable, and we want to look for our user ID session variable. So if this is not set, what we want to do is change the URL on the client side using header followed by location. We want to take them back to the login.php file, and we want to run exit so it doesn't continue running any code. Next, we want to create a user ID variable, make this equal to our session variable of user ID. So we'll simply paste that. And next we need to create a query, make this equal to our PDO, and we want to prepare an SQL query of select all from users where our ID is equal to our parameter. Next, we want to use the query by saying execute, pass in our user ID variable as our parameter. And we want to specify user, use our query variable to once again fetch our data. And so within our shadow div right here, we want to go ahead and display some basic information. So we want to say echo, and we want to display an h2 HTML element followed by our user variable and specifically the username. And underneath that, we want to echo one more thing. And here we want to specifically echo a button that links to the logout.php page so a user can log out right within their dashboard. So at this point, we can go ahead and refresh this. And since I set my username to Kalman Web Design, it'll say welcome Kalman Web Design, and it will also let me click log out. But if I click this button, it's just going to cause a bunch of errors. What I need to do first is go to the logout.php file and finish setting this up. So we already included our secure session component here. What we want to do here is use the session unset method to unset all of the session variables that we created by going through this process. And then we want to completely destroy our session by using session destroy. And after that, we simply want to exit all of this code. So at this point, if I go ahead and refresh and click log out, it's going to successfully log me out of the account. So you guys are going to notice that it's trying to take me to the logout.php file, which I don't want to do. So after we destroy that session, I want to use header followed by location to change the client URL to the index.php file here. Then I'll go ahead and refresh this, and we're going to go ahead and log in one more time like this. Now you guys can see we're logged in, and if we click log out, it's going to go ahead and log us out and return us to the home page. But now the only problem is if I go ahead and click log in and log in again as Kalman Web Design, you guys are going to notice that if I go ahead and navigate back home, there's no way for me to navigate back to my dashboard, even though I am technically logged in. So to fix this, we need to go to our Navbar file, and underneath our home link right here, we want to include some final PHP code. So here, I'll go ahead and create that bracket, create an if statement and say is set. And inside of here, I'm going to be looking for a session variable and specifically our logged in session variable. I want to check if this session variable is true. So I'll say is true. So if our logged in session variable is set and it is set to true, what I want to do is echo two more link options. So the first one is going to be a link to our dashboard like so here. And then I want to include one more that allows the user to log out from the navigation bar. So if I go ahead and refresh this and open this back up, since I'm signed in, I can go ahead and see the dashboard link and the logout option. So I can navigate back to my dashboard no matter what page I am on. And in here, if I go ahead and click log out, you guys are going to notice that it logs me out, sends me back to the home page, and removes the dashboard and logout option because I have killed that session and securely logged out of my user account. And one last thing I want to do is go ahead and open PHP-MyAdmin one more time and refresh this. And you guys can see I created two different accounts, and you can see that the ID auto increments, the usernames are present, the passwords are both encrypted, and you can see and access the emails for both accounts. Congratulations, you have successfully created a full login system where users can log in, log out, and if they are new, register a brand new account. And we did this all using standard HTML, CSS, PHP, and MySQL. If you guys have any questions, please let me know down below in the comments and I will respond to you. I know this video was a bit challenging and a bit advanced, so I don't mind helping you guys out. I hope this video helped out somebody out there. Thanks so much for watching.